Jim, how are you?
I'm good.
Thanks so much for joining us here today.
You're welcome.
And now, when I said hello to you earlier, I said like storyboarder extraordinaire because your artwork is quite distinctive. Now, can you just explain to us, for those who might not be so familiar, it's like, what is the job of a storyboarder as such?
It's basically taking the director's idea of the script and visualising it so we can then pass that information on to the rest of the crew, and then they get to see a definitive version of what the director wants rather than trying to work out from words. They work out from images, and that's a lot easier to do it that way. So I draw the film first and then we go away and shoot it. And
your drawings are actually very distinctive. They're very visual, and you can definitely see like how the story is going to progress from there. What was it that actually like got you interested in artwork and things like that, or was it just a talent you suddenly discovered you had?
Always been able to draw, always wanted to do films from seeing the first Star Wars movie back in '76, so that was the kind of genesis of that. And I just love being able to put things down in images. So that's how it all works together, really, and how it all comes into film.
Yeah. And how much did any of the illustrations that were there for for Harry Potter and like the books and things like that, or did you like have a conversation with Joe just to sort of fluff out a bit more of the information, or because like some of the scenes are just absolutely spectacular, so a lot of detail would have had to go into the storyboards for it.
It all stems from working with the art department. So my world is the art department world, and Stuart Craig, the production designer, the art directors, the concept artists, and the director, and then what's written in the script. So that's my influences, and it all comes together, and then I work it down into images. So I look at set plans, concept art, a little bit of my own imagination, the director, and what's written in the script.
And of course, like with all like the creatures and things like that would have had to be made, brought to life by visual effects and also special effects on site. Did you have a lot of interaction with Nick there as well, just if he was sort of saying, well, we wouldn't really be able to do the character like that because of all of these types of aspects, or was it just a case of, look, this is what I've done, you go do your own thing?
I was quite fortunate in that my involvement with the Potters started in the fifth film, so I did 5, 6 and the 2 7s. So by that time, there were pretty straight rules, and everybody knew their jobs and what they were doing, so you had a pretty good idea of what things were capable of doing, and they had their art down to a fine point, so we all knew what they were capable of, and so we could work up to their limits and maybe push the envelope a little bit. But we had a pretty good idea of how good they were.
That's good, because it was such a strong team in place as well. And how was it working with everyone, basically? Because it was, like I said, such a strong team, and it was already had like that sort of high expectation sort of things. Were you nervous sort of going in, or was everyone very welcoming?
You always tend to be a little bit nervous when you start a new film, when you start a new gig. But you were aware that it was growing into some sort of phenomenon. Obviously, there'd been 4 previous films. Yeah. So you started to hear a little bit of the vibe from that. But it's just a great team, starting with Stuart Craig, probably the best production designer I've worked with, and it filters down to all the other artists, and everybody's like-minded, so it becomes a family. I spent 5 years on and off working on the film, so you get to know everybody. You see babies being born and marriages and all the rest of it. So that team, there's a bond there that you get with working with that team. So it becomes easier in the long run because everybody knows everyone else.
Yeah, and you mentioned there like that the Harry Potter phenomenon was sort of like on the rise when you sort of joined in. Did you ever think that from that moment that you would be here celebrating like the 19 years later sort of weekend here in Dublin for a Harry Potter convention?
No, you never do. You never really want to think like that, because first and foremost your job is to draw the storyboards or the concept art or whatever it is that you do. So that's the day job, and anything else is a bit of a spin-off. But it's almost kind of like celebrity. You don't kind of really get involved in that because the day job is just doing drawings.
Well, you're currently, or about to be involved in quite another big phenomenon, which is, I believe you've done some of the storyboarding work or artwork for the new Han Solo upcoming film.
I did, yes.
How was that? I know you can't tell me any details or anything like that, but how was the experience?
It was different. It was not like anything else I'd done before, both in the way of working and the whole setup. It is very corporate. It's got a long kind of history behind it, and some of that you have to pay homage to in the way that you work within the system. So it was different. It was not like working on something like a Bond or a Harry Potter. It was very different.
Yes, and you mentioned Bond there as well. Like, were you a fan of the books when you were before you started, or did you take any inspiration from those when you're doing any of the storyboards for those?
For Bond?
For Bond, yeah.
No, it's all film, all the film kind of history of growing up from watching Dr. No and every Bond that there's been you've watched several times because they're always released on a bank holiday Monday and all the rest of it. But once again, it's just a little bit of film history, so it's nice to be involved with those. They're great fun to do.
And should we expect to see you on the crew list for the new one with Daniel Craig coming back?
I don't know. I'm the director's pet. So I work with the director, so depending on who the director is, I might get a call, I might not. It's Eon's gift to give wherever they want and to whomever they see fit. So.
Oh, well, I personally hope that we do see you on the crew list
So
again.
do I.
And thank you so much for joining us here today.
You're welcome, thank you.